Chain Drug Review, and Mass Market Retailers Video Forum. Brought to you by the Emerson Group.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Wolt, Editor-in-Chief of Chain Drug Review and Mass Market Retailers. Welcome to our video forum. Today, we're thrilled to welcome back Jenni Zilka, President of the Good Neighbor Pharmacy Network. Jenni, great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
For several years running, Good Neighbor has topped J.D. Power's patient satisfaction survey. What elements go into that record of success?
Well, we're very, very proud of winning the J.D. Power Award the past 7 years. And while I have the privilege of talking about it, and Good Neighbor Pharmacy is technically on the trophy, it is actually our GNP member pharmacies who are the real winners. The survey respondents are our pharmacies' patients. So they're patients of the independent pharmacies, GNP member pharmacies that they visit. So the number one in patient satisfaction really is a testament to the high level of care that these pharmacies provide to their communities and their patients. And it expands well beyond just dispensing prescriptions because they truly are the pillars of their communities and their patients rely on them for so much more.
Mm-hmm. I do know, though, that you and your team give them a lot of support that let them provide that great level of patient care.
We do. And we're passionate about supporting and enabling our independent Good Neighbor pharmacies. So we do feel like we're part of their families and an extension of their staff. So our teams are also really, really proud of the J.D. Power award and just really proud to work with our pharmacies on a regular basis. It's a privilege.
Recently, the New York Times has run a series about PBMs and the effect they have on the drug pricing and the pharmaceutical market. Even prior to that, you and your colleagues in the industry have been raising the alarm about DIR fees and the adverse impact they're having on the pharmacy community. Are you optimistic that perhaps with all this attention now, we're going to see some relief at either the federal or state level?
I am optimistic. I think so. Let me take a few steps back. As we prepare for our customer conference, which we call ThoughtSpot, which is coming up in a few weeks, we always send a survey out and we ask our member pharmacies to tell us kind of what issues are keeping you up at night. What are your greatest concerns so that we can make sure that we tailor the conference to their needs, right? And as I read through the feedback, really all the way back to the first of the year, not surprisingly, what concerns our member pharmacies the most is the uncertainty and the financial challenge of owning an independent pharmacy in today's environment. So that's why we at Good Neighbor Pharmacy continue to work tirelessly alongside both our members as well as our industry partners. And what we are really focused on is fighting for fair and adequate compensation for the products they dispense and the services that they provide beyond the products, right? And you mentioned DIR fees, Jeff, and I think the DIR, the recent elimination of those retroactive DIR fees it's a long sought victory, and it brings transparency to the reimbursement process. So while it's a monumental first step in the right direction, there's still so much work that needs to be done, not only at the federal level, but also at the state level. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to celebrate at the federal level. There's a lot happening around expansion of practice and allowing our pharmacies to practice at the top of their licenses and fair and adequate compensation. There's also a ton happening at the state level. I think there's over 150 state laws in all 50 states that are really designed to provide that fair and adequate compensation, as well as transparency, and allow our pharmacies to expand, not only expansion of pharmacists, but also pharmacy technician authority. So it's really important work, and I am optimistic. And part of the reason I think I'm so optimistic is that our pharmacies serve as not only reliable, but accessible sources of care for vulnerable and underserved patients, right? Just organically by where we're located. So we continue, again, to press forward in collaboration to really cement these pharmacies' long-term viability as healthcare destinations.
couple of things occurred to me while you were talking. One, you talked about the elimination of retroactive DIR fees. Uh, that's been a difficult transition. Are we through the worst of that?
I think we have weathered the storm. We are through the worst of it. What really happened was a compression of cash flow because the 2023 DIR fees were recouped in the January to May timeframe, while the point of sale DIR fees were implemented in 2024. So we have the retroactive 2023 DIR fees have been that's behind us. They have been pulled back, and we are now hopefully looking forward in a more transparent way.
You also mentioned pharmacy deserts, and we're seeing some small chains, independents having trouble and having to close their doors. We're also seeing some of the larger chains cutting back on their store base. How difficult a problem is that going to be? How hard is it going to be to try and achieve health equity, which is something we're all concerned about and talking about, if we see pharmacies closing?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it is concerning. And I think, it's well known that pharmacies are positioned to care for their patients beyond filling prescriptions, right? But when I think about independent pharmacies specifically, and then when I think even more specifically about our GNP pharmacy base, they are organically caring for these underserved and socially vulnerable patient populations due to their locations, right? We're highly indexed in rural areas. We're highly indexed in urban underserved. We also, independent pharmacies, specifically GNP, are focused on caring for those who are either in Part D or a state Medicaid program, with typically over 50% of their business being paid by one source of government pay. Mm-hmm. So when I think about not only their location, as well as their patient base, but also the high touch nature of the services that they provide, it is concerning that if they aren't financially viable and able to stay open, that these patients could lose access to care. We actually recently engaged with multiple data sources and did an assessment of Good Neighbor Pharmacy's reach into some of these socially vulnerable communities. And what we learned is that 20% of Good Neighbor Pharmacy stores directly serve or are adjacent to pharmacy deserts. Mm-hmm. And 93.5 million U.S. households are within reach of a Good Neighbor Pharmacy store, 20 million of which reside in low pharmacy access areas. Mm-hmm. So we have our pharmacies are organically already working tirelessly to uncover and bridge the gaps in care in their communities and taking amazing care of their patients, as JD Power, where we started, kind of reinforces. Within Good Neighbor Pharmacies, what we want to try to do is support their efforts. And by kind of tapping into the expertise of the larger Cencora organization, right, we're able to provide our GNP pharmacies with detailed snapshots of their communities and robust insights that help them identify where there might be other gaps and other opportunities for maybe tailored products or services or languages with which to dispense or market. So we're very passionate about this and certainly want to give our pharmacies, all the tools that we have available to us to help them not only expand their business, but care for their patients and maybe some of the patients they don't already do a phenomenal job of caring for.
Mm-hmm. Do you see major changes at a Good Neighbor Pharmacy if another independent or chain, for that matter, does close its doors? The demand shifts to that store. Does it put how much pressure on the pharmacists to try and keep up?
Yeah, it really does. And I think our pharmacy owners, when you ask them kind of who they are and why they do what they do, they are such empathetic clinicians that they insist on providing that high touch care. So it is a challenge for them to absorb the patients, but they're also very passionate about doing it and ensuring that they're caring for those patients, assuming, that they're patients that they're able to care for.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the expertise of Cencora, which of course is Good Neighbor's parent company. What are you two doing, Good Neighbor and Cencora, to make sure independents are ready for the Drug Supply Chain Security Act come November?
I can tell you what we're thinking about from a Good Neighbor Pharmacy and an enablement kind of perspective for our pharmacies. Our goal at both Cencora and Good Neighbor Pharmacy is to ensure that our pharmacies who are already focused on being these high-touched, high-level caregivers, I see it as our job to make sure they're prepared for the changes so that they can continue to care for their patients without interruption. And, we've got our Cencora team who's, our supply chain team really has been working tirelessly with our manufacturer partners, our customers, and everyone in between to mitigate any disruption to patient care because of DSCSA. And I know there was a recent extension out to 2026 as well, but we're not going to slow down our efforts or wait. We believe it's important that we continue to move it forward, leverage our investment in analytics, the relationships we have with HDA and others to ensure that we're doing the right thing for the patient in the way of DSCSA. And again, ensure our pharmacies are able to continue to care for their patients and not have interruptions because of that. So just making sure systems are in place and everything's buttoned up when it's time to go.
Jenni, a final question for you. We talked about challenges facing the industry. At the same time, I think we realize that there's great potential for pharmacy to do more and to help reduce costs and improve access and improve patient outcomes. How is GNP working with its members to bring that promise about?
Well, I'll go back to start with where we started our conversation, right? And I really think it is incredibly important that we, not only at Good Neighbor Pharmacy, but also our members and our industry partners, press forward in collaboration to advocate for measures to cement these pharmacies' long-term viability. They are healthcare destinations. They're caring for the vulnerable and the underserved. And, to me that, and to Good Neighbor Pharmacy, we believe that includes calling for fair and adequate compensation, again, for the products and the services that they provide, as well as supporting the proposed bills that have been introduced to ensure Medicare beneficiaries continued access to their pharmacist and the services that the pharmacist provides for prevention, testing, and treatment of common infectious diseases. So the other thing that's interesting, Jeff, is we've done some market research. So not only do we know that they're caring for for these patients and they're vital in their communities, we also learned that patients expect their pharmacist to advise them on their health, their wellness, and their medication goals, right? So they not only trust them, they actually want more from them and really respect their pharmacists. So giving them the ability to expand their services is just so important. They're incredibly accessible and they're able to do more than just dispense medications. And patients want them to care for them, their whole selves. So it's a huge opportunity, I think, for our pharmacists to do what they were called to do, which is care for patients. And it's also a great opportunity for them to tell their story, right? There's a lot of positive change in the industry. There's a lot of challenges that I've outlined today. I don't want those to be lost in my outlook here, but there is opportunity for positive change and to help solidify the competitiveness and the viability of community pharmacists as healthcare destinations. And I think as customers are seeking lower cost, convenient care, and wanting more from their pharmacies, they will continue to look to their pharmacies for more clinical services. And our pharmacies will do what they always do, and we learned it with COVID, is they will adapt their businesses and diversify their offerings to meet that need. And many already have. So we'll continue to provide the data, the insights, the support, the merchandising, the consulting, the advertising and marketing and digital tools, as well as patient engagement, analytics, et cetera, that will help our pharmacies meet their patients where they're at and continue to provide the high level of care that they're known for.
No, that's a great vision, a great objective. Are payers getting the message?
I think that's part of the advocacy. I think I have personally been on Capitol Hill several times over the past few months, and it does feel like there is an understanding of the benefit of our independent pharmacies, of all pharmacy, really, not just independent. It's retail pharmacy. and the need for them to continue to be able to operate and be viable so that they can care for these patients. So I have hope that the payers are hearing the message as well.
Well, I hope they do, Jenny, and the industry's lucky to have you as one of its advocates. So thank you for sharing your insights. Always good to talk with you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Jeff. Thanks for having me.